Hi everyone and welcome to Triple M Adventures with Bill. This video is to help you upgrade your firmware on your Jumper T16 using the OpenTX Companion. This was requested by Gary Murphy. So Gary, I hope this video helps you out and helps everyone else out too. Firstly, we need to download the OpenTX Companion file. We need to go to our browser and then to this web page, which I'll put in the description below for you. This is the OpenTX page. Then you need to scroll down and go to where it says News, and that will give you the latest release, which was a critical one for the Jumper T16. Click on that link, and then if you go to the bottom, you will see where you can download the latest companion, because for each version of the firmware you need a new companion file. Now there are Windows files, and then you've got Mac files and Linux files. But I use Windows, so I'm going to click on the Windows installer. Now I've already downloaded this file, but I'm going to do it again so that you can see how to do this. Now I click Save As, so that I can put it into the directory I've set up, which is one called, it's RC Radios, and then I put OpenTX Companion, so I keep all the versions. As you can see, my Norton has decided that file's safe, so that's good. Okay, then we click Save. Mine will want to replace because it's already there, but you'll just save and it will start downloading. So I'm going to save. Let me close this window. There we go. We can now either run the file straight from here. Okay, it's happy, Norton's happy. Or go to open the folder, and there it is. So now I'm going to run that file, even though it's already on my computer. So we'll double click it. We close this window. You're going to come up on Windows. It may come up with this, Defender doesn't like this file. Now my antivirus has already decided this file's fine. So all you need to do is click on More Info and then say Run Anyway. Then yes. And accept the agreement. I use the defaults here, so next, next, and install. And there we go, completed, say next, and then we'll launch it so we can go on to the next part of the process. And here we go. Now we've downloaded and installed OpenTX Companion, we need to set up our radio profiles. Now my profiles are already set up. If I go into settings and the radio profiles, you see I've got my Jumper T16 and my FreeSky X Lite on there. Now what I'm going to do is show you how to do this. I'm just going to add another radio. Now I'm going to go to Add a Radio Profile, and you'll see this Edit Settings windows come up. Name your radio. So Jumper T16 2. Then you need to make sure you choose the right radio type. So we're going to scroll down until we come to Jumper T16, and there's T16 Plus and the Pro. Click there. Okay, language I'm choosing is English. Now in these options, your build options, I'm not going to use helicopters, so no heli. Then I also choose the Lua and internal multi. You then have to go on to the next section, which is the default stick modes. Now mine is mode 1 because I fly mode 1. I've been flying for a lot of years like that. And then my default channel order is RTA. Then you click OK. Now if we go back to settings, radio profiles, you see I've got a second Jumper T16, which is all set up now to go. I'm going to delete this T16 profile that I just added so that I can go back to my original one. So what you need to do is go to the screens and then say delete radio profile. Are you sure? Yes. Now we need to download the latest firmware and the SD card contents. Now if we click on this icon here, the download icon, it will come up with a window. And okay, that's given me a clue. I'm actually in the wrong radio, because that I know is the Flex 9R is for the Tyrannus X Lite, so we're going to cancel that. go back into settings, radio profiles, and change over to the Jumper T16, okay, which is at the top. Now we can go back to the downloads and we can check for updates. Now because my system's already set up, it is up to date, so there won't be any updates. But we can download the firmware from here. So click download firmware and up pops a window. Now because I've got two radios, you can see it's going to save it in the Tyrannus X-Lite one. We don't actually want to use that one, so I'm going to go back up to my RC radios and then go into my T16, and you'll see all my files that I keep here, and then firmware releases. Now I normally put the release number at the end, so it is 2.35. So I'm not going to click save, so there is my firmware downloaded. And we can cancel that, so we've downloaded our firmware, and then we need to download the SD card contents. So when you click on this button here, it will open your browser and take you to the releases, and you need to download the 2.5 zip file, which is the latest one. You can see it's the 13th of December 2019, and that's the latest zip contents you need. So click that, and then it's quite a big file. Say save as. In my case I will say save as, so I can pick the right directory. I'm going to go back to radios, and this is my SD card contents, and what I do, I put it under the Jumper T16, and then I put it under SD card releases, and you can see it's already there. So you would then say save, and it will download the contents for you. I'm not going to carry on doing that because it's quite a big file and it'll take a while to download. So I am going to cancel, and then close my browser window and back to the download SD card contents. The next part of my video for radios which already have the bootloader on the internal multi-protocol module and OpenTX. If you have an earlier radio like I did, you need to first add on the bootloader to your internal module, and this requires opening the radio up and doing this process, and then putting on the latest version of OpenTX, which you'll need to back up your radio and other processes you have to do. So this is for the new radios that have been released now, which I know already have OpenTX and also have the bootloader included on their multi-protocol module. Now we need to connect our Jumper T16 to our computer. Now the first thing we need to do is plug in our USB cable, which is going to be a little bit fiddly for me because I've got to do it without jogging the radio. But here we go anyway. Okay, we're in. And we need to put our radio into bootloader mode. And the way you do this is put your trim 4 and trim 1 into the center, and then push the power button. And then release, and you'll now be in OpenTX bootloader mode. Okay, we then plug the USB cable into our computer. And there we go. Now we can go back to the computer. Now we need to save our current firmware and our models to our computer. Now if you had previously updated your Jumper T16 using the Companion, you would already have the last firmware, but let's assume you don't. Okay, so we're going to click OK, and we are going to go to read write, and there we can read firmware from the radio. So we're going to click read firmware from the radio. It's going to want us to save it somewhere. So again, I'm going to go into my RC radios directory, into Jumper, then go to my firmware releases, and I can back it up to there. You can see there was the original T16 firmware from when it was JumperTX. So I'm going to name the file. You can name your file whatever you want, but I'm just going to put test, beg your pardon, test, and then we are going to save the firmware. So now it's reading the firmware from the radio, and now we've got to back up it. We can just confirm that. Let's go to my directories, radios, and then Jumper T16, firmware releases, and there's the test bin. So now I would have the firmware the radio has at the moment. Okay, then we go back into OpenTX. Now we can back up our models. So read write, read models and settings from radio. Click this. Okay, you can see my models down here. And we now say File, Save As. And you can see it jumped straight to my T16 radio backup. So I'm just going to put the current date, which is the 20th of 20, and then say Save. After backing up the current firmware, the radio settings and the model, I also go and copy my SD card contents. So I'm going to go into the directory, the USB-E. I'm then going to select all and copy. This has all my personal settings that I've put on, the different sounds and that I've made up myself, and my model pictures. So I copy this. And then I go back into my radios, Jumper T16, and you'll see that I've got a directory that says SD card latest with Amber pictures and Lua scripts on there. That way I've got a copy of all of it as it was in case it gets rubbed out. There is a way of manually putting all this stuff back on, but I find it easier to do this because then I can copy all that contents, unless there is an SD card change. And in my case, there won't be because my radio is already set up to the current firmware. But I just wanted to show you this, that I make a backup of the SD card content. So I'm going to say new file. I'm going to say SD card as at 200120. Just for this purpose of the video, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to paste all that into there. So this will take a little while, but it's going to copy my contents. Okay, now I have a backup of my current firmware, I have a backup of my models and radio settings, and a complete copy of my SD card contents. We are now ready to update our firmware on our radio. So we need to go to read write and then say write firmware to radio. Now you need to check here in this window that you've got the right version. Now what I'm going to do, if you had downloaded it and only had one radio, it would have gone to the right file. But I'm going to say load, and then I'm going to my radios and my Jumper T16 and my firmware releases, and I know it's this one here. So I'm going to click on that and say OK. Then all of these settings just stay the same, and you say write firmware to radio. That was interesting. It said radio wasn't responding, but now it has, and it says flashing done. So now we can close, and now we can check our radio. I will close all my windows and now switch over to the radio. Okay, we're going to unplug, scroll down and exit.
Welcome to OpenTX. Disarm motors, mode 1.
Okay, and it's obvious my models are still there because it's loaded my Beta 75X. So we can go to System, page across, and there we can see at the top we've got OpenTX T16 2.3.5, and all my models are still there. If I exit, choose model, select model, and there are all my models. So my radio is updated and I still have my models. If for some reason your models didn't go across, you would then go back in and copy them over. If you didn't have your SD card contents in there and you turned your radio on, your radio will still operate and come on, but it'll explain that there is no SD card contents. So the next process we have to do is copy the SD card contents to your radio. Now this can be either done by taking out the SD card and plugging it into an adapter and put it in your computer and copying the file across, or you can do it by attaching your radio to your computer and copying the contents across. I will show you the method where we use the radio connected to the computer. Now let's transfer the SD card contents to your Jumper T16 via the computer. Now we can turn our T16 on.
Welcome to OpenTX.
We don't need to be in bootloader mode to do this.
Acro. Disarm motors. Mode 1.
Okay, once she's fired up, let's plug her into the computer. You'll see on the screen it says USB joystick HID or USB storage SD. So we're going to go down to the second option. Okay, now we can go over to the computer. The directory will appear on my computer. So let's go to Explore. And there we go. USB drive E, and that's where all my SD card contents are. Now, if this was a completely new installation, you would have no files there. But what you can do is just copy your new SD card content straight over to this directory. Some people erase all of everything that's in there at the time. I must say I normally do that. I format the SD card by taking it out of the radio and then add the contents on. But then also I have lots of other procedures I have to do to get my pictures and the Lua scripts on. But if this is just a basic installation, all you'll need to do is make sure the USB drive is showing on your computer. Go to where your SD card download was, and in our case this has to be the 2.3V225. Double click it, and you need to extract all those contents. When in fact I will just copy them, whichever way your computer does it. Copy and then put them into a directory. So I normally put it into the directory that the zip file was in. So we will speed this up. I personally wouldn't copy these files as you are extracting them straight to the micro SD card. I would rather extract them into a file on the computer and then put them over into your SD card. There we go. Now, all we would do is right click these, copy, and then go to your USB drive, which is here, and right click and paste. I'm not going to do it because obviously all my card contents are correct. So you would click paste and let it do the process, and now your contents will be on your SD card on your T16. So you should be good to go. I hope you found this video interesting and it helps you to update your firmware on your Jumper T16 radio. I will be producing a video where I show you how to update your SD card contents when you're using Amber sounds and Lua scripts and maybe personal customized sounds and your model pictures, so that you don't lose them when you put them onto your SD card. This is slightly more complicated to do, so I thought I would do another video for that. This video is for a basic radio, someone who's bought their radio and just wants to update it, and this hopefully will help them. Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you really enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel, and I would love to hear from you in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Happy flying. Bye for now.